Welcome to Lawyers in the House with Motley. Wish you had a lawyer in the family? Now you do. Here's your host, Veronica Waters.
Welcome to Lawyers in the House with Motley. I'm your host, Veronica Waters, here with another fantastic episode for you as we get down to talking about the elephant in the personal injury room, money. Now, I'm going to venture a guess that when personal injury attorneys like the ones in the room with me today, first hear from potential clients, the first thing that they hear is, how much is my case worth? And then I'm going to bet that another question that comes soon after it is, how much is my case going to cost me? Today, we are going to ring up the facts on fees. And for that, we've got two stupendous lawyers here from Motley Injury Attorneys. Sarah Neeland comes to Motley by way of UGA and Tulane Law. She has been practicing since,
I think, 2014.
Did you start at Motley?
I did a brief stint at the district attorney's office. And
That's
then
right. You
quickly,
dipped your toes into prosecution.
I did, and then quickly switched to the personal injury world.
All right. So people who know Sarah as an attorney describe her as innovative, cool under pressure, a problem solver whose focus on cases never takes her away from her attention and compassion and care for her clients. Now, Sarah, you grew up watching your dad helping people in personal injury law, but you told me you never wanted to be a personal injury lawyer. So what happened?
You know, I think we all want to find our own paths on our own, but the work that my dad does is very meaningful and direct. And at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do.
So you dipped your toe into prosecution, like we just mentioned. What was that like?
I didn't love it. It just wasn't for me. And I have a lot of respect for public defenders and assistant district attorneys. I think they do great work. It just wasn't my calling.
And how did you know that? Like, what was it that said, you know what, this isn't the field for me. Let me try PI.
I think the work that we do is just so direct and hands-on, and we're speaking to our clients every day. That's what drew me to this type of field. I like the communication. I think I'm a people person. I like talking to people every day and being able to help them directly.
All right. Fantastic. Well, Daddy had a lot of influence on you after all, right? And Big Brother.
Yes, I do work with my brother too. And we used to have offices next to each other, but it's probably better that has changed.
Oh, I'd love to hear those stories. So yes, Sarah and her brother and her dad are all Motley Injury attorneys. Now, the last time this lawyer was in the house with us, it was like he who shall not be named, because I kept glossing over his name.
Yes.
Man, his name is Doug Glosser.
You got it.
Of course I got it. Listen, I've been practicing on this since last time. Doug Glosser made his way to the halls of Motley from Syracuse and Duquesne Law.
You're right.
Right.
And I initially started with a different firm and found my way down here just like Sarah did.
Now, I heard that your career started off in the sports arena. Is that right?
Sort of. So I have a background in athletics for sure. And then when I was in law school and shortly before law school, I was working with some professional teams. And afterwards, I was like, what do I want to do? And I was like, you know what? I think that maybe trying to get into sports might be a good thing. But through that, I found my way into business law, and then from business law down here into personal injury. So it really is funny kind of how it all takes a big path like that.
Now, tell me how this sort of knits in with your childhood and your inspiration of watching your uncle as an attorney when you were growing up. How does that all connect?
Yeah, so it's really similar to Sarah. I had an uncle who worked in personal injury, and I remember talking with him about just different things that were going on in people's lives. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine. But I remember the amount of work that he put into it and the dedication that I could see that he had and how much he cared for these people, that I was like, man, that's really cool. Like, I really want to feel like I'm helping somebody. And then, you know, of course, you're walking around town and they're like, oh, you know, there's Mr. Waldman or whatever else. And you're like, yeah, see, like maybe I want to be that guy about town too for helping people.
Yeah, now you're that guy. And that's maybe why your reputation is also of an attorney who is dedicated and relentless and compassionate. You had an early role model, and you've brought that into your own career.
Yeah, and I think we all have to, like Sarah said, I think sometimes we all try to find our own path, but at the end of the day, we always come back to kind of, what our core foundation is. And for me, and seeing that growing up, and just like Sarah said, it's always about what can you do for somebody else, especially if you're in a position to be an attorney and you have those kind of skills, like how can you pass that on or do good with it? And so that's kind of what we all try to do.
I love that. Doug Glosser and Sarah Nealon, thank you so much for being in the house with your girl Veronica here on Lawyers in the House. All right, now let's be honest. Some folks say it is not polite to ask how much people make in polite company, right?
Sure.
Not supposed to talk about it. But today we are among friends. And so we're going to take a little bit of a peek. So as always, first things first, when people come to you, I'm going to ask the question, can I afford you? Can I afford a personal injury lawyer?
The great thing about what we do is that we don't bill hourly. So if you don't have money to pay us hourly, don't worry about that. What we do is so accessible because we only take our fee if we're able to recover for our clients. So we can do all this work on a case, and if it turns out later that for some reason there's something about the case that we cannot win, then we're not going to take a fee for all that work that we have done. Now, most of the time, that's not going to be the case. We're going to be able to help people that when we're taking their cases. So this type of contingency fee is really accessible to most people.
And that's what it means to work on contingency. Doug, it's got to feel then to me, the client, like maybe this gives me a little peace of mind because I know you're not going to take my case if you're not pretty sure you're going to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Sarah said, there's kind of two big reasons that we work on contingency fees. Number one, it definitely allows for everybody to have access to high quality legal work. So you don't have to worry about, like Sarah said, is there a certain amount of money up front that I have to give just to even have somebody review it, right? So the second thing about that as well is you always know that as your attorney, we're invested in you, right? We want to make sure that the best thing is happening for you. So obviously, we're going to do everything that we can to try to ensure that you have a successful outcome right now as well, because our firm receiving anything is contingent, and that goes back to the contingency fee part, contingent upon actually being successful.
I love that. It's free unless we win, unless and until we win.
Yeah.
Not free for you guys, because I'm sure you guys are doing something along the way, stroking checks along the way, maybe to pay for services or bills or I don't know what. You know what? Let's get into that. I'm not sure how do y'all do that? How are you able to do that? We're going to talk about that. But for me, free until a victory. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let me ask you a little bit about how you talk with your clients. First of all, if my case comes to you, how many hands does it have to pass through before it gets your eyeballs on it?
So with our firm, the really great thing about it is with all of our intakes, you're always going to be talking with an attorney. So if you call, you can talk with Sarah, you can talk with myself, and you're always free to call and ask for somebody specifically if you'd like. I've come to find out you would think that would be just a pretty standard thing for law firms to actually have attorneys talking with folks, but come to find out and speaking with the public that is not a common thing. So anytime you call our firm and you're getting a consultation about your case or you have questions about, what the law is, you're actually getting that from an attorney and not like a case manager or somebody who's like just doing some kind of things and then just giving the bare details to the attorney who never actually talks with the client.
So talk to me then, Doug and Sarah, about how you have this conversation with your brand new clients or potential clients about fees and how much it's going to cost them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about this the same way that we're talking about it now, that the contingency fee is something that we only take our fee if we're able to recover. And it doesn't matter how much work that we do on a case. Like you were mentioning before, Veronica, sometimes if there's a case that we cannot win, if we have spent lots of money on the case, we're not charging that to someone that we can't help. We always are doing our very best to to do whatever we can for people. And if we're not the right fit and we can't win, then no one's going to owe us any money. But our fee is right up front. We talk about that in the first phone call if someone wants to retain our services, and we go over all of it together. But we're very transparent, and there's no guessing involved.
I don't know if state to state there is this sort of framework or expected fee structure about how much personal injury attorneys will take, as a percentage of fees. But I know that I've seen some different advertising from time to time about lawyers who come out bragging and saying, "Hey, we're only taking a quarter of your settlement. Whenever you win, we don't need all your money because maybe we just filled out some paperwork for you or whatever." I mean, so what say ye to folks who are like, "Well, this lawyer says I can hire them for, a lot less"?
Sure. So it's important to understand, number one, what goes into these types of cases, right? And understanding that there's a lot of different moving parts, and you really want somebody that's going to take the time to invest themselves in your case and understanding what's going on and not take kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to everybody's cases. So if somebody says, the case, this is all that you have to do or something like that, you're not really getting somebody that's understanding what your unique situation may be. So a lot of times there's insurance carriers that are just going to try to stick your case in a box and everything else like that. And what we try to do at our firm is obviously try to get the insurance company to understand the person as a whole, right? And that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of different things to be able to put into that so that you can ultimately present the best kind of case. And that's one of the big things that I think that makes our firm different. And I know I speak for Sarah and all my other colleagues to say, with our firm, we really invest ourselves in your case to make sure that we understand it and don't take kind of a one-size-fits-all reductive approach to it.
Right. We're not sending a couple letters and just making a couple phone calls. We're really invested in your case, and we're doing everything we can to make you human to the insurance company.
So how intense do these cases actually get? Because let me tell you, after several months of doing these shows, it does sound like it's a lot more than just, a couple of phone calls and a signature.
It's very intense. So the one thing that I try to recognize, and I talk with folks a lot, because the thing that I hear all the time is, do you guys even want to take my case? It doesn't even to me feel like a big case or seem like a big case or anything else like that. And the thing that I always try to tell folks is, look, if I'm in your position, your case, that's what's going on in your life right now. So to you, that's the biggest case in the world, right? And so that's how we have to treat it and everything. And if we're not investing ourselves in recognizing that to you, this is your whole life, and even if you consider it, hey, I was rear-ended and thank goodness I'm okay and I'm able to go back to work in a couple months, that doesn't mean that it's not a big deal to us, and we try to make it recognizable to the insurance company that you have been affected in some way that maybe they haven't seen before.
Maybe it seems small to them, but it's really big in your life. We're on Lawyers in the House with Motley. Coming up, are those online settlement calculators really any good? Stay with us. Welcome back to The Money Show on Lawyers in the House with Motley. I'm your host, Veronica Waters, here with Motley Injury attorneys Doug Glosser and Sarah Nealon, talking about all of these sort of questions that you always had in the back of your mind when it comes to personal injury law, but we're not really sure whom you could ask. So we're asking these two fabulous attorneys about how the right lawyer can put more money in your pocket, and how maybe if you are paying less for an attorney, could you be settling for less?
You could be. So the one thing that's important to recognize is that, especially at the outset of a case, there's really, really critical things that have to happen, right? And things that if they aren't done, I'm not going to say properly, but with mindfulness and intention and making sure that you're doing the proper thing for the client, then almost everything else can kind of fall down later for the client, right? So if you take shortcuts initially, all your chickens are going to come to roost, so to speak. So there will be times where people will call us and they'll call our firm and say, hey, I was working with somebody else and here's my situation. And I just had this the other day where somebody got very, very injured and he was working with a different attorney. And
one of these reduced fees attorneys.
Perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. And it had a specific point of law involving the government. And not to get too deep in the weeds, but whenever you have a claim with the government, there's a special kind of notice that has to be sent. And you have a very short time to do it. And if you don't do it, again, it doesn't matter what happens down the road. They can always come back and say, you didn't do this one thing within the first few months of the case. And lo and behold, this attorney did not do that for this gentleman. And so when he said, can you help me? I said, I would love to. But by the letter of the law, I can't because this specific thing was not done.
And now your case has gone kaput.
Totally. And I had to be the bearer of bad news because he had no idea. And it's a lot of these types of things that I wouldn't expect anybody to just know or to have to double check with their attorney to do, or something that a quick Google search or something like that can tell you about your case.
Speaking of going online and searching for something, Sarah, these online settlement calculators that I've seen, are they reliable?
I would say no. The reason being is because no one is going to be able to evaluate your case on a settlement calculator. That's just something that the insurance company relies on, and that takes the human component out. We are talking about your pain and suffering. We're talking about everything that goes into your case, your treatment, your injuries. Is it permanent? Have all of these things been evaluated in your case? So no, those settlement calculators don't take into consideration the human component that is an attorney will bring to your case.
Personal injury is personal. Sarah Nealand and Doug Glosser from Montlick Injury Attorneys here on Lawyers in the House. We've got more to come. Stay with us. Welcome back to Lawyers in the House with Montlick here on WSB. I'm your host, Veronica Waters. Thank you, friends and neighbors, for being so kind as to join us week after week and cashing in on this knowledge today about money. We would love it if you would take the time to like and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. You can also subscribe on YouTube, where you can see our smiling faces. Remember, between shows, you can keep up with us on social media. We're on every platform at Montlick Law, and 24/7 is like one-stop shopping at lawyersinthehouse.com. You can see us, you can listen to us, and you have the added bonus of sending a direct question straight to the show. lawyersinthehouse.com. We're here today with Montlick Injury Attorneys Doug Glosser and Sarah Nealand, and we're talking about fees and money and how the right attorney can add real value to your case. Let's talk about experience, Doug and Sarah, and how great it is, first of all, to just sort of rewind that on a contingency fee basis, if I don't have $100,000, $50,000, $15,000 to put down as a sort of deposit on a lawyer, then I don't have to pay anything out of pocket. And I get an experienced lawyer like one of you to help me out.
Absolutely. That's what we do. That's what makes this so accessible to every person who's involved in an accident. If we can help anyone, we're willing to take their case. If we can see an outcome for them, we're willing to take their case. So it doesn't matter if your case is big or small, or if you don't have any money to deposit. We are going to do whatever we can, because we don't work that way. We work on a contingency fee basis.
Now, I hear the word settlement all the time when we're doing this show. Does that mean that you're like getting the case in and boom, here we're speeding towards settlement? I mean, is settlement a dirty word?
So it's not necessarily dirty, but it's something that you just want to be mindful of, right? Because when you settle your case, that is most oftentimes the end of everything. There are certain times, obviously, where people can have structured settlements, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's an ongoing thing. But generally, when you settle your case, that's it. So you always want to make sure that you're making the right decision. You know all the ins and outs of what it means to settle your case, and you're not doing something that's not necessarily the right time or the right thing to do for you.
All right. So what does choosing the best lawyer have to do with settlements? Can you settle too soon?
You want to hire somebody that you trust. You want to make the best, most informed decision that you can on your specific case, so that you want to make sure that you have a good relationship with your attorney. You don't want someone who's just going to quick and dirty, like you said, settle your case without doing some of the legwork that needs to be done that may increase your settlement. Or perhaps maybe your case is best suited for a courtroom because what's being offered is too low. So you can accept an offer that is too low, and people do that for probably a number of reasons. But we're not going to tell you to settle your case when we know that the value is not there.
So it's almost like a settlement mill, if you will. Like just get them in, get them out.
Yeah, you want to be mindful of something like that because one of the things that insurance companies do is they'll just flash cash in front of people's face right when something happens. And, it's usually enough, maybe a few $100 or $1,000 right then, right there for somebody to be enticed to say, yeah, maybe this is something that I want to do. You also have to be mindful of lawyers that do that too, because there will be both lawyers and insurance companies who are just trying to get this case resolved as fast as possible. And that fits into their business model, basically, which is to say, we need to get this going because if I can just get as many cases off my desk and as many cases going through, the value of it doesn't really matter. I just need to get as many cases going. And that, to me, that kind of, it diminishes the relationship that you're supposed to have with the client and understanding the situation that they're in. And you're almost kind of serving two masters, which is your own and the client's. And when you're working for somebody, you're really just supposed to be invested in what's the best thing for them without reference to, what does my law firm need or anything else like that, because that person's case is not, they don't care whether or not you are going to have enough money to run an ad or something later. They just care about their case. So with our firm, when you have a firm that's the size and has the resources that we do, but also has the small personal feel that you do or that we do, you're not beholden to anything besides what's going to be the best thing for the client.
All right, so let's do something small and personal, like real talk. We've taken the 30,000-foot view. Can you give me an example of a real time when you made a difference in a client's case or life?
Yeah, for sure. So there's, and Sarah probably has a million of these examples as well. But
she's next.
Yeah, but one that sticks out to me is it involves a guy that was just checking his mail, and it's something that we do each and every day, right? And we don't think that just a simple walk from your front door to your mailbox can be a life-altering event, but for my client it was. And what happened was he's just checking his mail late at night. He got off of work, boom, hit-and-run driver, hit him. We could never find him. I mean, we went to like this McDonald's that was up the street and we were like, did you see this guy? Did you see anything on their cameras? Nothing, right? So we can never find the guy. My client was in Grady and he was in there probably a little bit over a month. And if anybody has been in Grady and has seen a bill, you know that can be very expensive.
It's a level 1 trauma center.
Yeah. With that, these bills can be very expensive, and his were over $1 million.
Whoa, 7-figure medical bills?
Yes, absolutely. And with these cases, the thing that we had to figure out is how can we get this gentleman back to good health, number one, and then number two, without owing all of this money and everything else, because to divulge the settlement information, there was only $50,000 available. And that was through his policy that, thank goodness, he had on his car. And so I hope everybody listened to our episode about insurance coverages and what you should have, because that was his underinsured motorist coverage.
LawyersInTheHouse.com.
Yeah, exactly. So we had $50,000, and there's a lot of attorneys that would say, okay, we got the $50,000 in, and they'll help facilitate all that and send the demand. And if all you're doing is just sending a couple of pieces of paper, then sure. That case, you could have got the $50,000 for that client.
And then you're left with $950,000 in medical bills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of attorneys and a lot of firms, I think, that they have done the work for that client, which is they got the settlement offer.
But you knew differently, and what did you do?
Right. So for him, our goal was maybe not necessarily getting the maximum, because we did, but for him, it was, how do we get all these medical bills figured out? How do we take 5, as they say, how do you take 8 pounds and put it in a 5-pound bucket, right? You can't. So what we did is we were able to navigate the Medicare system, navigate the patient advocacy system for him, get him set up with health insurance, which he didn't have, right? And this isn't anything that we're making money on to do all of this. Mm-hmm. It's just the right thing to do. So ultimately what ended up happening was we got him set up with insurance, which he has going forward if he ever needs anything going forward. So that's why we talked about settlement. You want to make sure that you're set up to have what you need. And we were able to get all of those bills reduced from $1 million down to $13,000.
I'm sorry, one more time. Say that.
From
what?
$1 million down to $13,000.
Is what you did for his medical bills.
Exactly.
Stunning.
Yes. So with him, was he walking away with every last, with what I felt that would be fair for him? Of course not. But you need to understand, and your lawyer needs to have a conversation with you about what finances are available, what's realistic, and what is there. Because in that situation, we didn't have anybody that you can file a lawsuit against. You can never find the person.
Because you never found the driver.
You never find the person. So the goal for that client was not just to get the maximum amount of compensation that was available, which we did, but it was to make sure that going forward, he's not victimized essentially a second time by a mountain of medical bills that have his name on it.
And Sarah, it sounds to me like from what Doug just shared with us that I can see that when you're talking about you as an attorney adding real value to somebody's case, it's not always necessarily just dollars and cents. There's a lot more that goes into adding value to somebody's life.
There's a lot more, and a lot of things go into what values, what a person is worth, and what their lost income and their pain and suffering, and how their whole family was affected. And as Doug was talking, I was just thinking in my head, oh my goodness, we've had these catastrophic cases with sometimes very little coverage. I think all of us have had that exact same case.
A ton.
Or very similar, not exact same, but it's just something that happens, and we go the extra mile. We take those extra steps, even if it takes longer, even if we're in the case for much, much longer. We're doing that all to help our clients and maximize their recovery.
So that has got to require a lot of negotiation back and forth with various and sundry folks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are you good at that?
I think we all have to be good at that to keep our jobs. So
I heard that you're relentless.
I
heard you're relentless.
It's
Sarah.
something that we do. It's something that we do all day, every day, is just picking up the phone and talking to people. And if we're getting someone's voicemail, a million times, then we're figuring out a way to get them on the phone. We're tracking them down. We're doing whatever we can, bottom line, to help our clients.
So do you have something that sticks out in your head, a case that you wanted to share with us?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many. Even thinking of one that I'm thinking of is a child that had a pretty serious injury, and we were able to find more coverage just because of the resources that we have available to us at Montlake. We were able to send investigators out, see that there was an extra car in the household, maximize this little girl's recovery, and things like that. Some other attorneys may not have the same resources as us where they can find the extra coverage, and the case may be settled and someone doesn't know what they don't know. But this little girl was able to have a little bit more coverage for her injuries when we thought that there was only a little bit there initially. So things like that, I think all of us, I can really speak for all of us, we've all had very similar cases, and we're racking our brains, we're talking to each other, we're sort of playing ideas off of each other to see, okay, what is something that I haven't thought of yet? Or is there anything else? Is there any stone that has been left unturned? We are trying to do that. We are trying to find the solutions for our clients, even if it's not the first thing that we think of.
Has there ever been a moment in your career where you thought, oh my gosh, we're not going to make any money off of this case?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's plenty of times where you think, okay, the outcome here, it's not looking necessarily great just on its face, but that's where quality lawyer work has to come into play, because as Sarah said, there are so many times where a client will call you and they'll explain the situation to the best of their knowledge and with what they have on hand. And if you just take that information, you go, okay, I'm just going to go with that, and I'm not going to do any additional digging. I'm not going to apply any of my experience to the situation. Like Sarah said, you may end up missing something that can substantially change someone's life.
And so I think you're probably I'm guessing then guided by certain principles, Sarah.
Yeah, if you can help, if we were taught, if you can help someone, take the case. Even if someone's telling me that the insurance company has denied their claim, we will take that case if we think that we can win for them.
Mm-hmm. Not always driven by dollar signs.
Of course not. We're here for our clients.
All right. Coming up next, the Motley closing argument is straight ahead, and we'll talk about why transparency matters in cases like this. This is Lawyers in the House with Sarah Nealand and Doug Glosser from Motley Injury Attorneys. I'm your host, Veronica Waters. Be right back. Welcome back to Lawyers in the House with Motley. I'm your host, Veronica Waters, here with Motley Injury Attorneys Sarah Nealand and Doug Glosser, talking about fees and money. It's the money show, and we know it's been kind of a complicated topic. So right off the bat, I want to tell you, if you've got questions, don't be afraid to just shoot them our way. You can tweet us anytime at Motley Law, or drop us an email if you got a little more detail than you could fit in those Twitter characters. LawyersInTheHouse@Motley.com is the address. LawyersInTheHouse@Motley.com. It's time for the Motley closing argument. Doug and Sarah, the floor is yours.
Mainly, I think one of the things that anyone can take away from this is you want to have transparency with your attorney. You want to know if you are even considering accepting an offer, you want to know what down to the penny that's going to look like. And that's something that we present to every single one of our clients. It's important to have that transparency and that conversation with your attorney, just so that you can know and have peace of mind that, okay, this sounds like a good thing, but then you get your check, and if it's different, then you may have hired the wrong attorney. We're not those attorneys. We are easy to reach, easy to talk to, and we want to make sure that you understand your case as well as we understand your case.
All right. So you know what? You mentioned check, and I say check too, like stroke a check. I say that a lot. But I need to really kind of ask you, I've never really thought about how you get the money from a personal injury case. Do I get a check? Do you wire it to me? You know, do you hand me an envelope full of cash?
You
or
get
what?
a check.
Our firm gives out checks. So everything just kind of comes back to doing things right and properly and up to the highest ethical standards.
So it's a one check, or do I get a series of checks like every month or something?
So typically when you settle your case, you are settling it and you are getting one check. And that's why when we're discussing settlement, you always want to make sure that your attorney is giving you an itemization of everything that's going on. Believe it or not, I've heard of situations where the attorney just says, this is the offer, and someone says, sounds great, and then they accept it. And once you get that check in your hand, you go, whoa, this is totally different than what I thought was going to happen. So you always want to make sure that you understand all the ins and the outs of what it actually means to settle, because for pretty much everybody's case, once you get that one check, that's your one check.
All right, one more thing before we say goodbye. I asked earlier, how do you guys pay for this stuff along the way?
So for things like case expenses, like getting your medical records, anything that we need to present your best case, the law firm will advance those costs for the client.
These are usually just a couple $100s when we're trying to get you thousands of dollars. And it's basic things. We're not making money off these case expenses. It's just the cost of bringing your case, the certified mail, the, like Doug said, medical records, and accident reports.
And then it's all down to the letter when you are talking to the client about the fees.
We will always itemize these case expenses for our clients.
All right. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and only most of the time, one time to pick a personal injury lawyer who's right for you. It's your day in court. Don't sell yourself short. This is Lawyers in the House with Motley. I'm Veronica Waters. See you next time.